Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of the end times. I want to take a short break from my series on Vladimir Putin to talk about the mystical number 444 and its significance in these end times. And the reason I want to do this is because I got a comment on my most recent video. And let me read this for you, and you'll see what I mean. And this is from Statue of Dumbledore. At least that's his YouTube handle. Hi, William. I am a boy at the age of 14. I live in the Faroe Islands. And I have seen the repeating numbers of 44 and 444. Every time I look at the clock, the last digits are 44. And every time I read something on the internet, it has 444 in it. I want to know if this means anything, because I have been seeing these numbers at least 5 times a day, and I don't believe it's accidental. Best regards. Well, thank you, Statue of Dumbledore, for that comment. And in fact, the Lord woke me up at 4:44 this morning, which is not unusual. And I said, well, maybe that's a sign I should do a video on this number. And what's interesting to me is that there are a lot of people who don't see the number 444. For example, when I ask my brother or sisters, do you see the number 444 a lot? They look at me, with puzzled look on their faces, and what are you talking about? They do not see it. But on the other hand, since I made a video on 44 previously, many people have commented that they too see this number. So let's go over the significance of the number 4 and why 444 is an amazing combination of that number. First of all, the number 4 is probably the most important number in end times Bible prophecy. The entire book of Revelation is organized around the number 4. And of course, our own president, Barack Obama, is 444 in Bible prophecy. That's because he is the 44th president elected 4 years ago on the 4th of November. And he is the leopard in Daniel, which has 4 heads and 4 wings. 444 is followed by the number 666. Remember, when Barack Obama was elected, the Illinois lottery numbers the next day were 666, and the pick 4 numbers were 7779. And 777 is also an end times numbers. The 4 most important end times numbers are 4, 7, 12, and 28. And anytime you repeat those numbers 3 times, you give it a divine or a universal significance. For example, 666 is the number of the beast. So at the risk of repeating myself for my regular subscribers, let me go over the 4 most important end times numbers. For example, the 4th week of a month is the last week. That's why 4 is an end times number. The 7th day of a week is the last day. The 12th month of the year is the last month. 4, 7, and 12 are the most important end times numbers. 28 is also important. It is a multiple of 4 and 7. And it is also the last day in a lunar cycle. So, Statue of Dumbledore, when you see 444, that is a warning from Almighty God that we are in the end times. And 444 is followed immediately by 666. So that is the significance. In other words, Barack Obama's number is 444, and that was immediately followed by 666 in the Illinois lottery. And we see the exact same thing in Daniel chapter number 11. The first 12 verses are arranged in a 444 sequence. The last 15 verses are in a 555 sequence. But between those 2 sequences are 18 verses, and by extrapolation, those would be arranged in a 666 sequence. So, it is not all bad news. Yes, 444 followed by 666 means that Barack Obama will be defeated by the forces of the Antichrist. But 666 followed by 555 means that the forces of the Antichrist will be defeated by Mary's rosary. 555 symbolizes the weapon which Jesus will use to crush the Antichrist. So in conclusion, statue of Dumbledore, 444, is a warning of the end times from Almighty God. And don't forget, God does not reveal the future to scare us, but to prepare us. Whenever I see 444, I usually stop what I'm doing and say a little prayer, ask for a little direction. And when I saw 444 this morning, I took that as a sign that I should do this video as an answer to your comment. And as always, for those in my audience who would like a free copy of my book, Revelation Unraveled, you can write to the address you see on your screen, or send me a message to my YouTube channel.